I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Andrea Hylen to talk about her article in the July-August issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Andrea, hey, thank you for being with me today.
Hey, thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here. And hello to everyone in Facebook land or YouTube.
Andrea, we're going to talk about your article. You're doing a series of 10 articles in the magazine, but before we do that, please tell our viewers what you want them to know about you.
Well, you know what? When you worded it that way, I was like, oh, I was going to say one thing. Let me just tune in. That's part of conscious self-evolution is being aware and paying attention. Um, I'll say that I am now grandmother of four, two girls and two boys. We were just talking about that before we came on. Um, and I am a writer, a coach. I'm the founder of the Incubator, an online co-working space for women creatives. And having coached and worked with women creatives for so long, a few years ago, got trained in ancestral lineage healing because I felt that sometimes what comes up in the creative process is something from the past and really from the past, those ancestral lines. So yeah, and I call myself a life scientist because I am interested in exploring and discovering new things all the time, learning about myself and learning about others.
And you do such a beautiful job of that. You know,
Mm,
you've written so
yeah.
many articles for On Purpose One magazine through our entire, I think you wrote some when we were a print magazine. I'm pretty sure you
Yes,
did.
I
And
did.
then you've
I
written
did.
these series of articles,
Mhm.
for us. And this current one is on conscious self-evolution. And you're doing a series of 10. This is the ninth one. And
Yeah.
this call, well, before you can get to the article, say a few words about conscious self-evolution and why you decided to write this series of articles.
Well, first I want to say that the influences from Barbara Marx Hubbard and her book 52 Codes for Conscious Self-Evolution, um, and just the impact on so the one thing there seems to be a theme of something I want to share about this today, and that is that when we begin to pay more attention to what we are seeing around us, what we are hearing around us, what we are feeling in our bodies, and we begin to make choices and decisions from that information that's coming to us, that there's a process of discovering our true potential. And instead of just living life, going through the motions, there's actually more of an aliveness where you begin to notice that these things that are happening around you or within you are actually informing you of something that's going on in this. And it's a cycle and it's circular. It is not a linear process. It is circles and circles and circles of growing and being aware of what's happening within and around you.
And so you're taking your information from Barbara Marx Hubbard's book on conscious self-evolution, and she talks about there are 52 codes to
Yes.
evolve consciously, self-consciously, conscious self, to self-evolve. How's that?
Self-evolve.
Okay,
That's right.
self-evolve.
And what she's basically telling us is that there are clues. And in many ways, it's like looking up a recipe in a book, that there are ingredients that go into it, there are clues and tips along the way. And if you were baking a cake, there would be tips on, well, if you're in a certain elevation, here's a way to modify it. Or if it looks like this, you're going in the right direction to have that um, completed cake. So it is a roadmap of things that come up for people in this spiral of evolving.
I think for me, and going through this series with you, reading your articles, I've interviewed you every time that you've written one. What's really come up for me and what's helped me is that these codes make sense of things that are already happening. We're not trying to make something happen with these codes. These
Right.
things are already happening, like you said. And then it sort of puts them into a perspective. It gives us the recipe then for what to do with those codes so that
Mhm.
we can live in the space that you talk about, the space of just being aware and in the moment and fully alive. Is that right? Do you agree with
It
that?
is. And I feel like also that sometimes we're evolving in a way that's different from the people who we're living with or who are in our closest circle. And so part of it is knowing that yeah, and I want to just say it's not about superiority. Like we all get information at different times and we're growing at different rates or whatever. But for me, when I started to hear Barbara speak, it gave me words to put to what I had been feeling that I hadn't been able to express as much. And it also helped me see that it wasn't weird what I was feeling, you know, because I think that sometimes when you're not around people who are going through some kind of growth that you're going through, you can feel like something's wrong with you,
Mhm.
and well, why can't I just like get with the program and do it? Well, no, something is changing within you. And so I felt like hearing Barbara speak that there was something that just gave me permission to be my full self and not try to be like anyone else.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
Well, in this particular article, you write about code 49, which is see
Mhm.
everything with the eyes of the butterfly. And you share two examples from your life that illustrate how this code worked for you. Would you share one of those stories with us?
Sure. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna like because there's a part of me that's the rebel. I want to share another story
That's
with you.
fine.
I want
Yeah.
to
Because I'll
share.
have to go read your article to get those other
Right,
two. But
that's
it's
right.
so,
You can
yeah.
go read the article about things. I mean, first of all, I just want to say that a couple of things to know that at this point, seeing through the eyes, seeing everything with the eyes of a butterfly is, you could see it as having a fresh perspective. You could see it as having some kind of an awakening. I mean, think about the butterfly that has struggled to get out of that cocoon. It's like, I mean, what we know about butterflies now is that in order to be able to fly, there has to be a struggle getting out of the cocoon because that actually brings some kind of strength into the wings so that the butterfly can fly. So just think about that you've come out of this cocoon and there's been some struggle, there's been some like flexing of your muscles, there's been some strength. And so now you get out and it's like, oh, fresh perspective, that maybe things are brighter, things are shinier. And I know the example that I want to give, which is actually going to tie in with two things. The first thing is what it feels like to have that kind of awakening. I met my husband in an insight seminar in 1988. And then he went on to take the second level. And by the time I was ready for the second level, he was an assistant in that seminar. And so then we connected and we ended up getting married at some point and having two children together. But there was this, so we were both used to being in this environment where people were waking up and they were hugging each other and they were seeing the possibilities of connection, and that's what can happen with these bright eyes, that seeing that, oh my gosh, I have finally found my people, my tribe. I can be my full self. That people in the room are actually challenging me to be my full self. And then many of those people became our friends and are still, still friends, things that we have just done together over the years since 1988. And then I'm going to tie it to something else because this is an important piece to understand. One week, I went and volunteered without my husband, and he was taking care of the kids. He was going to work every day. And I come home all bright and shiny from being in this environment where everyone every day is like, be all you can be, and we see your highest potential. And he's going to work where people weren't necessarily seeing that. And that's part of the evolution, is that you may have this new awareness, these bright eyes, this fresh perspective on who you are and who the world, what's possible in the world. And I remember coming home all shiny and bright and expecting him to match me there. And even though we'd gone through seminars together, he'd been an assistant in the seminars, he finally just said to me, I am just not where you are. Like, I was out in the world today and I wasn't with people who saw my fullest potential. And I'm a little like,
You're like overwhelming me now, probably, right?
right, right. And chances are he was in another part of the spiral,
Mhm.
right? Because this isn't like a one-time thing. Like, oh, I now, everything is wonderful. There are no more challenges in my life. No, maybe he was back in like the step one. He's back in step one again. And so I think that's important to understand also, is that you will have on the site, you'll reach places on the spiral where you'll feel like, I've made it to like another I understand myself more. I want to live in this highest potential. And then you'll go visit maybe your family or some friends you haven't seen in a long time, and they haven't had that awakening in this moment. Or you may have someone who's had the awakening and you're just like, I'm down in the trenches right now. Like, things are being released. I actually just need a rest. So I want to just give that perspective, that even though Ginny and I've been writing the articles as like a linear thing, and Ginny and I are having a conversation, like, here's step one, step two, step three, or whatever it is. We're actually on code 49. That to have some like, well, I'll just share two of the tips that I have in the article. One is accept that something has changed and there's nothing for you to try to control.
Mm.
You don't need to control anyone else around you. Just accept that there's something within you that has changed. It's an experience, it's an aha awakening, and you're seeing life from a fresh perspective of a highest potential, not seeing life with eyes that say, whoa, everything is really messed up here. No, that's not the perspective. Is actually, I see the potential, the human potential. I see my potential. I see that I feel that I'm actually in it right now. And so the second tip that I have in the article is allow space for change. And so allow space. There's a place where you just start to hold what's happening. And that's what I did with my husband when he's like, I'm just not like you. I can't even listen to you right now. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to let that pull me down. I'm going to thank him for sharing that. And I am going to allow space for change and just see that this feeling that I'm having, this awareness, could be spreading throughout the household. And I'll stay curious to see how that impacts everyone in the household. If I'm not trying to control anyone, I'm just going to hold what I'm feeling here.
I had my own experience of that type of thing because of, I was with a seminar company, a client, and then I went to work for them. And I remember after I did the first program with them, things had just shifted so dramatically for me. It was bright-eyed and but then I thought everybody I know needs to do this program, right?
Of course,
And
of
I'm out
course.
there like a disciple of the program, and but in the process, I think what I was also doing is picking out their flaws. I saw what was wrong with them and that they needed to change because if they just did this program, and it's kind of like any newfound anything, that we do, we get on a bandwagon and we want, and I think bottom line is I really wanted them to feel what I was feeling.
Hmm.
I also didn't know that what I was feeling was also fleeting in some ways. That
Yes.
there is this, and it's circular, it's up and down, it's all around. And there can be a bit of an arrogance with that. You mentioned before it's not about superiority, but I had such a major transformation just immediately. It lasted for a while and then it dipped again, and so, but I just wanted everybody to experience it. And I was obnoxious, I know, with it with some people, because I just wanted them to be in that space with me. I wanted to share that with them. And so I love that example because, and what I also started to learn is that people also get to their places in different ways. It doesn't have to be the way that I'm doing it.
Yes.
It's not my job to monitor all of that and to fix everything. And that was part of my learning as well. Because up to that point in my life, I've been controlling things pretty well, I thought, out there in the world. I want to continue to do that too. I hadn't had an awakening around that yet. And so I just have to chuckle when you talk about that because, it's an amazing feeling. It feels really good. Like there's so many possibilities and things look so bright and shiny, things I never saw before and things I want to experience now. And and it doesn't mean that has to go away. It's just I love how you handled it in that this is about me right now. This is just about me. Let me emanate, let me be me and see what happens, knowing that he would eventually find his space, his place again, where he needed to be in that. So great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I want to just circle back to that also, that part of the grace for me in that moment was knowing that we had met in a personal growth seminar,
Mhm.
that we had both experienced what I was describing and that he was able to share it with me. So I knew it wasn't just, yeah, because I can think about so many things that have like turned me on, lit me up, where I just wanted to, this is the answer for the whole world. If everyone would do this or try this or, experience this, whatever. And in that moment, I already knew he knew the benefit of it. He just couldn't meet me there. Um, but I think it's also important to see that although it's fleeting, the more that we go around the cycle and see it and have these experiences and build on those experiences. Now, one of the things I will notice is when I'm working with clients who are in the high spot, and I can see that there's this underlying thing that's going to come out of, for instance, writing or really exploring a story. And it's like, well, sometimes it is important to go down
Mhm.
so that you can get to the root of something and pull it up by the roots. And so I don't have to, like, it helps me to look at other people with compassion because I think, oh, okay, they're at that high place of seeing everything through the eyes of the butterfly, and I'm not here to be the downer around it. It's like ride the wave,
Mhm.
and yeah, I'll see you next week. And then, and that there have been, and again, it's not superiority. It's I've gone through it. I've had people who were kind to me when I was in a high
Yeah.
and thinking I had the answer to everything in the universe and held space for me and still loved me when I was then in the down of seeing dog poop on all the sidewalks that I didn't know was there before. And so if there's one thing I can say about this, it's like enjoy when you're at that point where you can see the highest potential. And remember, when you are on a different part of the cycle, you're exploring something else in your life where you maybe don't have as much confidence or you're trying something new. Remember that these moments of seeing with a fresh perspective, it doesn't leave you totally. It can be a touchstone. Use it as a touchstone of this is where I'm headed. And right now I'm in the place where I don't have the confidence. I'm in a place of uncertainty. I feel like I don't know the answers, but actually you're in the process of knowing. You're
Mhm.
just not there yet. And you will reach this place again. So it's easier now. Again, that's part of hopefully getting older and wiser, making mistakes and trying things, is to be able to hold space for each other wherever we are in this cycle.
Something just came to me, and I realized that in my life experience, what I have experienced is the highs like that, and also the more aware I am, also the more aware I become of the things that aren't working. So they're sometimes just as bright and shiny. They're just, I mean, they're maybe not, but they are. They're
Uh-huh.
glowing. They're out there. They're right in my face. And
Mhm.
I haven't been aware of them before either. So that can feel, I think, bigger sometimes than it is, because they're just as big as because it's all a new perspective. I'm looking at the negative stuff in a different way. I'm seeing it for the first time, maybe in a certain way,
Mhm.
and not always knowing what to do with that either. So sometimes that can feel bigger. Am I making sense here? I never thought of it
Yeah,
that way
yeah,
before.
absolutely.
And
And
that's
it
why it can feel so out of sorts, because it's being magnified as well, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
absolutely. And it's why one of my tips is to slow down. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing to grasp or make happen. It's like being aware of what you're feeling, check in with your body sensations, notice that, yeah, that fresh perspective can show you all kinds of things.
Mhm.
And that there's this place where Barbara talks about I'll just read this part. You are looking out with the eyes of the butterfly for the first time. Bring this image up into timelessness. You are no longer time bound. It is your role to co-create this field for everyone and everything that you do. Feel the bubbling joy in you. So there's this place where you don't have to go anywhere with this. You're just in the space of this happening. And that, yes, you're living from your highest potential. You're recognizing the power of who you are. And at the same time, there can be another thing happening, and that is that you're at another part of the spiral.
Mhm.
So you're seeing in one area of your life, I'm showing up this fully as who I am. And at the other part, it's like, oh, this new thing that's in my life. I'm also seeing that. And that one may feel a little wobbly.
Mhm.
And so this place of, if there's one piece of advice I would say, and that's coming to me right now, is how important it is to have time for rest and restoration, even when you're at a place where it all feels great.
Yeah.
Like give yourself the space to let it feel great and also rest because your body is always going through changes.
That was going to be my next
Okay.
question for you, was about Barbara talks about a feeling of timelessness and liberation. And I was going to ask you, what might that look like? And you talked
Mm,
about it a little bit, but especially this liberation, what might that look or feel like?
yeah, to me, it's that it comes in moments, which if you think about it, when you think about memories that you have in life, it's even if it's something like, oh, there was that great weekend and we went this place and we had da da da, but it was moments from that weekend. It was moments in time. And that to me is when we feel freest. When we feel that freedom, we feel that timelessness where it's like everything is happening and nothing is happening at the same time. And I did use an example in my story about I'd had I'd had a physical illness. I had an autoimmune condition, and I had a reaction to a medication, a new medication they put me on, where I ended up in the hospital not being able to walk. And over that week, I had a lot of different things happen, but there was definitely a moment where I felt like through sobbing tears and music, I had purged something out of my body. I had really gone into a deep healing. And when I came out, it really felt like the like, whoa, the sun came out. Okay, the sun came out. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna get well, and I'm gonna homeschool my kids. It was just like this epiphany. I just knew it. But there was a moment where my husband picked me up from the hospital. I'm kind of, I'm still a little wobbly. I'm walking to the front door, and he opens up the front door, and I look inside, and it felt like all time stopped because the house looked brighter, shinier. I remember looking at the living room thinking, okay, there's still toys on the floor from the kids, the blankets all askew, there's a sippy cup upside down on the rug, but everything just looked brighter. And in that moment, I knew that something really had changed within me and that was the outer reflection. And it is that feeling where it feels like all time stops and you remember it. And you know what? We all have moments. I mean, just think about it, that a moment where you felt something, you noticed something, you thought of something. Whenever I say that, I always think about when a friend and I went to Hawaii and we were sitting in this restaurant, kind of like rainforest type. I'm like really rainforest type atmosphere, not the one that's created in another part of the world, but we're sitting there and I'm having a waffle with warm coconut syrup. And whenever I think of a moment, I think of that moment, like I'd never tasted anything, I've never experienced anything in that way. And you're just suspended in time, and I can easily get back to that moment. Just talk about a moment in time. Oh, coconut syrup on a waffle in Maui. Yes.
That sounds so yummy right now.
Yeah.
It's so yummy. But you probably don't want to have it again, right? Do you feel like you want to have it again, or it might
Well,
not
it's
be?
funny because I bought some of their syrup and brought it home and tried to recreate it, and I just never have been able to recreate it. It was a moment. So
So
we
many
didn't
things that went into that moment. It wasn't just the syrup. Yeah.
yeah, it was just, oh yeah, absolutely. It was everything, like how we even had the opportunity to go to Hawaii, how all those pieces came together. It was a moment where everything came together in that moment. And that I'm glad that you poked at that a little bit, Ginny, because I think that's the moment. It's like the moment encompasses so much more than just the moment. It's that the moment gives you a feeling of suspended in time where everything just stops or slows down, that you can fully feel this. And it's connected to all the other moments that got you there. Yeah.
And when we start to actually notice that, I know when I start to really notice that and pay attention, it's like miracles. That had to happen, then this had to happen, and then the gratitude kicks in, and then it's yeah. So it's a huge big ball of stuff.
It is. And I really encourage everyone who's listening to just slow down at some point today or later this week and tune into a moment that you've had in your life, the way that I'm describing this, because I know you've had them. You've had many of them.
Mhm.
But what is a moment? And just give yourself a moment to actually feel and remember that, and that kind of timelessness that happened. And even for another moment, reflect on all that came in to experience that moment.
Mhm.
So I'd be curious. And for anyone who does that, if you have something you want to share, post in the comments. 'Cause I'd love to know.
Yes, please do. Please do. I want to tell everyone who's watching, if you're watching the live or the replay, Andrea shares much more in her article. And you can also find that at opwgc.com/magazine. That link is in the text of this video, as is Andrea's link to her website, so you can see what she's up to. And also go into the magazine on our website and click on the archives, and there you can go back and find every one of Andrea's articles on this series. And we publish every other month, so just go back to each one. I would go back maybe and start with the first one, find the first one, start with that. But it really doesn't matter what order we read these in. And Andrea does a beautiful recap at the end of what she's covered so far. So, Andrea, how can our viewers find out more about you?
I would say go to my website, andreahylen.com, and that's really where I have the most up-to-date information about free resources, programs that I'm leading, teaching, books that I've written, things like that. So I would go to the website. And I want to have a big thank you, Ginny, to first of all saying yes to this series. I know that there's one more that I'm going to write about, which actually speaks of victory, being assured. So when you're on the journey of conscious self-evolution, there are victories along the way too. But thanks for saying yes to the series, and thank you for always creating space for me to use my voice and share my thoughts and experience. So thank you.
Thank you so much for just always sharing your wisdom and your spirit and your heart with us and with me as well. I do want to ask if you have something coming up you'd like to tell us about.
Well, I have an annual incubator program for women. It is an online co-working space. You can find that on the website, but it's every year, it's October 1st through February 28th. And if you go to the YouTube channel, if you're not there and you're listening to this on Facebook Live, go to the YouTube channel because I did a talk for On Purpose Woman called Upleveling Archetypes, Rewriting the Stories of Women and Men. And that is, I always put a topic in the incubator, although women are working on books or programs or other kinds of creativity in there. I always put something in for us to all to think about. And so this year, the topic we're thinking about is upleveling archetypes. And I did a talk for On Purpose Woman that's also on the YouTube channel.
Yes, and it's a really great talk. Do you remember about what month that was? I don't.
I think it was the end of June. And one of the interesting things about that talk is I said, what will it take in the United States for us to see that a ruler, which is an archetype, and the president is a ruler, not dictator, but just someone who's in charge, right? That's what a ruler is, to be the head of household. I said, what will it take for us to elect or see that it's possible to elect a female president? And in the time between that talk and this, at the end of July, there is now a Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, is running for president.
Mhm.
So is it possible for us to hold a vision of a woman being at that level of power?
Mhm.
Yeah. So here we are.
Speak it, Andrea. Yes. And then she's worked just one month, maybe. You said the end of June, you thought, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
been a month. And so from that point, I was just asking it as a, what will it take for
Mhm.
us to see that a woman could be president of the United States? It's happened in other countries around the world, but there just seemed to be a disconnect in this country about what it looks like for a woman to be in power. And I would even say to bring in the qualities of more of the feminine, which is intuition and heart and compassion. Can we see someone as being in charge? Yeah. So we'll see.
You know what's so great about what you said? Well, a lot of things are great about what you said, but can we see through the eyes of the butterfly?
Yes. Can we
Can
see?
we see with this new perspective, this fresh perspective?
Hmm?
So yeah.
I'm seeing it. So I
Me too.
respect that not everyone sees what I see, but I see it.
Perfect place to wrap this up, Andrea. So thank you again so much for sharing yourself with us. And thank anyone who's watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. For more information on the On Purpose Woman Global Community and Magazine, please go to my website, click in the links in this video, and be sure to check out Andrea's website for all that she's offering. And for more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose, check out our YouTube channel in the text of this video.